Hey everyone, it is me, Scott, your hero for Heroic Studios Gaming. See what I did there? How's it going? Welcome. Thanks for coming to this video. Today is the day where I cover the Judge Dredd RPG. It is the third video, as you guys well know. And yeah, it's the day that I'm going to talk about it. So let's jump right in. So if you don't know what Judge Dredd is now, stop. Go back and watch my other two videos, and then come back here. Because you should know what it is by now. But the Judge Dredd RPG was made by N-World Publishing a couple years back. I backed it on Kickstarter for the PDF version because I didn't have any faith in it, and that was really dumb of me because if you look down here, there's some important names at the bottom there. The creators of this game, I didn't realize who they were. I just was like, oh, cool, Judge Dredd, I like that. I'll get the PDF, no problem. The creators of this game are actually quite highly skilled people whose other games I am aware of, and so had I realized who had created it, I probably would have gone all in. But instead, I went in PDF, realized it was really good, really high quality game, and I went and bought it from my local friendly game shop for, more money than I probably would have if I just bought it on a Kickstarter. So whatever, that's just how it be. Sometimes that's how it be. So. But anyway, this book, I'm going to show it to you because I don't normally show you the insides of the book per se, but I am in this case because the thing I wanted to point out is that this book was actually produced with the agreement of the comic book company that makes the Judge Dredd comic books. You see right there, and this is one of the pages on the inside. Now the whole thing doesn't look like this, but what this is after you read all of the character creation stuff, there's this, and this is actually the summary of character creation, but in comic book format. It's all right, so suppose you're going to make a judge. Well, this is what you do to make the judge, and they're going to go to the academy, and they're going to go through the rookie years, and they're going to go, that kind of thing. And I think that's pretty cool. The rest of the book kind of looks more akin to something like this. This is like a normal page in the book. There's a cool art piece from the comic books, some explanations, a little aside note, and that's basically what all the other pages kind of look like. But there's that's not the only page like that. There's 3 or 4 sections like that where there's just comics to explain a thing. Maybe there's just two, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of little pieces of comic art. So here's another one. The comic art, there's comic art, explanations, right? That kind of thing. So that's what a normal page looks like in the book, but it is really quite well done. It's really kind of nice to read it. And the best part is on pages 4 through, I don't know, what is it, 9 or something. Anyway, it gives an explanation of well, I guess it's not page 4. It's page 12. So page 12 onward for a few pages, it sort of explains the entire world of the 2000 AD comics stuff. The stuff I explained in one of the previous videos. It breaks down each of the individual stories that became really popular, and so the ones that sort of lasted for a long time, and what they're about. So Slain, what it's about. Strontium Dogs, what it's about. Rogue Trooper, which is the one that I love, and what it's about. That kind of stuff. And so it breaks them down for you. So if you don't know, or if you're oh, that sounds interesting, I totally love to read that, then you know what you're looking for. So that's cool. But really, it was made by some quality people. It was made by Darren Pierce, Nick Robinson, Robert Schwalb, and Russ Morrissey. Those names should sound familiar to you. If you don't know, then fine. If you do know, then that's great. That means you've played some games. Nick Robinson's the least known out of all of them, and he basically was one of the guys that worked on the World War Cthulhu stuff. So if you have any of the World War Cthulhu things, his name pops up a lot, and so that's where he comes from. And then Darren Pierce made or worked on the Lone. He didn't make, but he worked on the Lone Wolf RPG stuff. He worked on Tiny Wastelands. He worked on Tiny Dungeons. Some games that are actually quite popular. So his name pops up a lot if you are into those kinds of things. And then Robert Schwalb, he owns Schwalb Publishing. And he created his most famous creation is Shadows of the Demon Lord and all of the spin-offs that come from that, which is a fun game, though I've never played it, but apparently everyone loves it. I've read the rules, and it is quite simple, and it's really cool if you wanted to do a horror fantasy world. It's really great for that, so you should totes do that. And then Russ Morrissey, he created N-World Publishing, so literally everything that N-World Publishing has done, he's touched it somehow. So these are quite good people as far as game design goes, and this game is quite well designed. So how well designed is it? Well, I'm actually gonna do this. I wrote my notes in a different order than the way I'm gonna explain it to you because I think that the way that I'm gonna explain it is probably a better way. The key to the game is basically rolling some D6 dice pools, and these D6 dice pools are made based on your sort of attribute, then your skill, then any particular like special bonuses from perks, and then weapons, right, or items. So if you're gonna say shoot a gun, then you're gonna be doing your your agility plus your firearm skill plus like any bonus the gun gives you, and then plus any perk that you have that tells you that you get plus some odd d6s or whatever to the roll, right? But essentially your stats are strength, agility, endurance, intuition, logic, willpower, charisma, luck, reputation, and psionics. Reputation and psionics start at 0 no matter what character you are, unless you're a psychic character, but that's a different thing. But all the other ones start at 1, and then you pick a species, and that sort of goes up from there. And then you build your character. Well, that's not the point. I'll talk about that in a second. What I am going to talk about is this. So you build this sort of dice pool. So you create these numbers, your attribute number, you create your skill number, then you have your any bonuses from weapons and or special abilities, and that'll create a number of dice. But the way that they break it down is a little bit different. You don't just add all of the numbers together, and then that tells you a number, and then you throw that many dice out. No, which would make sense. That would be easy. That's the beta red way. No, this is something else. This is like so each of those is to be evaluated independently, and then it gives you the number of dice that you're going to throw into the pool, which actually kind of works out to having slightly more dice than if you combine all the numbers together. So like, for example, if I had a agility of say 6, right, which is pretty high. I have an agility of 6, and then I have a dice pool, or then I have a firearms of 3, and then I have the firearm gives me, say, a +1. We'll just say because it actually gives me extra dice. But anyway, let's say it gives me a +1, and then I have a perk that gives me +1, a special ability that gives me +1. So then I have, now I'm at, so I'm at 9, 10, 11, right? 11. So according to that, 11, I would roll 4d6, according to this dice pool thing that I've got right there. That's the chart. That's the actual chart from the book that they give you to determine. So I'd roll 4d6. Now, that's fine, but that's not how I'm supposed to do it. What I am supposed to do is go, okay, I have an attribute that is 6, so I'll throw 3d6 in. So now I put 3d6 down for my attribute. Now, my skill is 3 in firearms, say. That's what I said before. And so I put 2d6 down, right? You see that right there. It's right there. I put 2d6 down, so now I have 5d6. I'm already higher than 4d6, so I'm already in a different place. And then the gun's giving me an extra d6, so now I'm 6d6, right? Which is much higher than 4d6. And you see where I'm going. So that's how you do it. And so you sort of create these dice pools based on like the skills and the attributes. So the book tried to, when they wrote it, they were trying to follow like a sort of rules light style of like, oh, well, the attributes and the skills don't necessarily link. If one makes more sense than the other, then you use that one instead of the one that would naturally seem like it makes sense. Like agility and firearms seems like it makes sense, but they're not actually tied together. So if you want to do strength and firearms, you could pull it off. But, and this is where it gets weird, but you have to have like a plausible explanation for that. So it breaks down on itself, but it sort of boils down to just doing the way that it says. You're going to do a strength plus brawl, right? Not rather than agility plus brawl. Though you can make an argument for agility plus brawl, I guess. But you couldn't do that for firearms. You're going to be like, I'm really strong, therefore I'm much more accurate with my firearm. That doesn't make any sense. And a lot of the skills are like that. Like, I'm really lucky, so that's what I'm going to roll instead of intelligence when I try to pick this lock, right? And that doesn't make any sense. Like, that sort of thing. But anyway, that's what you do. And so that's the dice system. So the dice system really works out quite smoothly because it allows you to kind of roll dice. Well, okay, I should clarify. You then roll that number of dice to try to beat a difficulty number. And that number is going to be between 7 and 21, basically. It's not going to be really less than 7. Anything less than 7, the book sort of says, just assume that that's a trivial thing and they can do it. So anything that has a difficulty of 7 or above is basically a thing that you're rolling dice for. And then it says you can go all the way to 45, but in order to put like the difficulty at 45, you have to assume that they have like people have like a 10d6 dice pool, and really people can only get to that if this is like a high-powered game, and like their average games are only going to be getting to like 5d6 like as their best things. Like usually between 3 and 66 are basically the dice pools that we're talking about. So the number is going to be more like 7 to 21, right? Because 21 was really hard when you have less than 5d6, right? In fact, it's impossible unless you have 4d6, right? Like, so if you have 3d6 and the number is 21, you're not going to do it, right? But except there is one caveat: if there's a critical success. If you roll 3d6s, then you automatically succeed. Like, it's a critical success. So you like if I roll my 5d6 and 3 of those d6s are 6s, that's 3 6s. That's it. I win. So whatever it was, I do it even if it's 21, even if I have less than 21. Then yeah, I still do it. So that's sort of how the dice rolling works. And opposed rolling is just as easy. Opposed rolling is I roll my dice, you roll your dice for whatever the skill is that we're using against each other. For wrestling, we're both going to be using like strength brawl kind of thing. But if, whatever the opposing rolls, we're both going to roll our dice, and whoever gets the higher number wins. That's it. It's real simple. And then combat plays out similar to that sort of structure where you have a defense number, and that's essentially the difficulty, and your defense number will be 10 plus like something. So like your melee defense number is going to be like 10 plus strength, and your ranged defense number is going to be 10 plus agility, right? And you get where I'm going with this. And so you have these defensive numbers, and the person, the target, just whoever is rolling against the person has to beat that target, that defensive number. And so like if I'm rolling against you, you have a defensive 18. My difficulty is 18. That's it. Simple. Very simple for that. So that's how the dice rolling works out. The best part of the game is not the dice rolling. That sort of leaves a lot of roleplay opportunity when the dice rollers are so simple. But they're fun enough that they're actually kind of interactive, so you pay attention to that. But the actual reason that this game is so fun is actually the character building section, because building a character in this game is quite fun. Because it's not just a simple system of like you choose like a species, a career, and a background, and that's what you got, right? And all these numbers happen because they do. No, the way that they do it is you get to have your character starts off as a level 5 character. It's called grade 5 in this game. And the reason they start off as level 5 or grade 5 is not because they want you to be like have all cool special abilities now. No. The idea is that you're building the character based on life paths. So they've had 5 different major events happen in their life, whether it's career events or life events. Those are the things that you choose, and so it's like these like along the way getting to where you are now, you did these other things along the way. If you're a judge, then a lot of those are different types of training, and now you're out on the street. Like the final one is you're now a street judge or something, or you're a tech judge or a med judge, whatever the type of judge you've become. That's the judge you are now. But along the way, you had different rookie training. You had rookie training, you had firearms training, you had that kind of stuff. When you break it down, however you want to break it down for the life path and the choices that you make from there, and you can do some of them twice. You can do the same life path twice, but you can't go backwards. So like you can't be a rookie judge, then do something else, and then go back and be a rookie judge again. You can't do that. But like you can freeform sort of build your character, and it just adds more time. These things correlate to how old your character is too. For each one of them, it's blank D6 number of years, so you have to roll that each time. So your character maybe spent 3 years doing vehicular training as a judge, and then 3 years doing marksmanship training. They're now 6 years older than they were when they started, and say they started at 18, they're now 24, and they're still halfway through the training, that kind of thing. And so then you build your character by making these choices, and you really have to start off like right in the beginning if you're going to say, am I going to be a judge or am I going to be a not judge? And the not judges are broken into 2 categories of perp or civilian. You don't have anything else, right? Those are your options. So the civilians basically just have like a bunch of random boring stuff that they do, but it's still like cool stuff. Like Skyriders are a civilian thing, and those are the guys that ride like hoverboards really high in the sky and do tricks and stuff. And that gives you special abilities like if you have fear no heights and things like that. It's technically illegal, so like crossing into the perp territory is super simple. In fact, a lot of civilians can get put in jail for just drinking coffee, right? If it's not specialized soy decaf coffee or something, then they can go to jail. And so anyone can become a perp that's not a judge, right? But you basically make these 5 life path career choice things to build your character, and each time you choose one, it's going to add certain things. It's going to tell you had +1 to this attribute, +1 to this attribute, +1 to this attribute, like etc. And then it's going to give you like 4 or 5, maybe 6 choices for skills for the life path, and you get to choose 2 of them. And then it's going to give you like 2 to 3 special abilities, and you get to pick one of them. And so you build the character sort of developing them the way that you want and have the certain special things that you want. Like, for example, whenever I made a judge to play in a game, and I only played in like 2 games or 3 games. There's 3 games. Whenever I made a judge, I always took the rookie trait, Obey the Law, because it gives me a +2d6 to my intimidation, regardless of whatever my intimidation actually is. I get +2d6, and so that really helps if, say, even I make a judge who's not so great at intimidation, and I only have 2d6 as my dice pool, I get to add another 2d6 because of the special ability. So now I have 4d6, which is a much better number. Now we can hit things that are difficulties like, 18. Like, that's fine. 21, that's hard, but I can probably hit it. I might be able to hit it. But like 12, 13, 14, which is like your average number, yeah, I can totes hit that. And I didn't really do much, right? So this is how you choose your character. This is how you build your character, and then you just play out the character. But the coolest thing about character creation is that they want you to make, and this is just the thing that I think is really cool, and other people might think is really boring. They want you to make a summary, like a descriptor sentence before you start off building the character, and this is a sentence that breaks down into like a age type thing, species, career path thing, right? There's who, and then some special like role playing hook about them. So for example, you'd be like, a old, grizzled clone street judge who cares more about the law than compassion. And that would be your sentence. Now, what they want you to do is they want you to write that beforehand and then go make that character and then come back. But I've always found that, like, I'm going to tweak things along the way anyway, so I might as well just wait till I'm done and then write that sentence out based on what I'm looking at, rather than try to write that sentence out and then go pick and choose and find those things, which I could probably do. It takes more time. So it just made sense to me to just write it after the fact, and then you just remember that. You just keep it on a Post-it note, sort of set it aside, maybe put it on your book or something, and remember that sentence, because that descriptor sentence is the sentence that's supposed to define your character. And so the game sort of lets on that there's this idea you might get a mechanical benefit from that, and there are ways that it could be used. Like if, for example, being a street judge applies, then maybe you get an extra die, or if being old and grizzled applies, then maybe you get an extra die, or that kind of thing. But mostly I found that it's really useful for remembering how to roleplay your character. So you know what the character is. They're an old, grizzled, clone street judge. So that's who they are. And then the last part is like how you roleplay them. Like who cares more about the law than compassion, right? And so whenever I was playing this character like this, I would just have to remember each time a choice came up with like, do I choose the law or do I choose compassion, like extenuating circumstances, whatever. I would always choose law, and that was sort of made sense. It's like, all right, this character always chooses law. It makes a consistent role playing, and it also makes sense. And then you could have character development where eventually maybe you let something slide, which everyone else is like, what the hell? And it's like a character development. But it's just sort of, it was easy to remember that, and I would just put it on Post-it notes and hang it to the side, and then I remember like how to play that character. I always remember that like he's old and grizzled, so instead of just being like, all right, well, thanks for talking to us, thanks for helping us out, like I wouldn't be like that. I would be like, all right, thanks, civilian. Have a nice day, right? Or something like that. Or be like, is that gum on the ground? Did you spit that out? That's 5 years in ISO cubes, right? Like, I'm old and grizzled, like I don't care. And so that's what it's for. So this game sort of allows you to do these sort of investigatory, sort of exploratory games in a mega city that's basically rampant with like muties and fatties and stuff, who are basically people. They're just unemployed people who are just rolling around trying to be normal people. But there's stuff that happens. Or it could be like some overarching plot where like there's a bad guy who's going to do a thing, and then you've got to go bust some skulls. Or you just play a game where you bust skulls. You can literally just roll around and arrest perps all day long if that's what you want to do. So this game sort of facilitates that and allows you to play those different kinds of games, playing these different kinds of characters. I just wanted to point out that like I've never just shown you the GM screens of any game ever, because GM screens kind of suck. And this one's not super much better. Like it's got like, okay, so here's the thing. Character creation happens with the characters. It doesn't need to be on the GM screen, but yep, sure enough, there's it's right there on the GM screen. I don't know why it's on the GM screen. Character creations definitely should not be on the GM screen. And really only like 1 to 2 pages of the GM screen are actually useful. Otherwise, it's not tremendous useful. There's a table to create random crimes in progress for the players to deal with when like game opens and stuff. So there is that, but which is kind of cool. But the best part about this is the art on it. It's just got, comic booky, Judge Dreddy art stuff to keep you in the mood. But my favorite part is the final panel, the last panel right here, where you see like Judge Dredd sort of dreading it up. But this thing under my finger, which doesn't really want to focus in, is actually the crimes and their usual punishments. So that you can, and that faces the players. So the players, whenever they run into a perp and they go to arrest them for something, they know exactly what the crime is, and they know how long to give them in the IC cube, so the role playing can just sort of continue where they go up and go slap the handcuffs on a perp that was like resisting arrest, right? And they're like resisting arrest. It says 1 to 8 years here, so they'll be like 6 years ISO cubes, right? And like the game master can role play like the wagon who picks up all these criminals and takes them to the IC cubes. Be like, yes sir, 6 years ISO cubes, right? And that kind of thing. Or maybe you'd like tack them together. You're like, all right, resisting arrest, 6 years ISO cubes. Peeping on some people, 500 credits fine, right? And then like and obstructing justice, 6 months ISO cubes, like that kind of thing. And you just like tack it all together and like, all told, 4 years, 7 weeks, like 8 days, and 500 credits of ISO time, right? Like that kind of thing. So that was like the best part. So that's actually a nice GM screen. Most GM screens are boring and suck. Even Maximum Apocalypse is kind of boring and sucky. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Have a great day. I hope that you are thinking about buying the GM or the Judge Dredd RPG. I was trying to say GM screen, and my brain was like, "Why are you saying that?" Buy the Judge Dredd RPG. It really is actually kind of worth it if you like that kind of thing. If you like Judge Dredd, if you don't like Judge Dredd or really don't care about Judge Dredd, don't buy the game. It's probably not worth it. But if you have friends who like Judge Dredd or people who like the movie Dredd or, the movie Judge Dredd or whatever, then maybe buy it. Maybe play it. You can buy the PDF. You don't have to buy the physical book. You can buy the PDF. PDF is nice. It looks just like the book. So that's the thing. But that's it. So that's all I've got to say. I hope you guys have a good day. And I give this game 2 thumbs up all the time, mostly because I just like playing a judge who goes and arrests perps randomly. And I like the style of the art. So that's what I like about it. So 2 thumbs up from me. It is worth the money, and I am going to let you all go and let you go back to your normal lives. So have a good day, and I will see you later.